Do you want to work for a fast-growing M&A consulting and advisory firm? Then Palmtree is the place to be. Palmtree is a firm that's experienced incredible growth in recent years, even in the midst of the global economic slowdown, and hiring just keeps marching on. If you're currently an employee at a top accounting or advisory firm seeking to break into the M&A industry, or you're a student interested in learning about the M&A lifecycle, consider Palmtree. Join the firm's upward trajectory and help shape the future of M&A advisory. If interested, learn more and apply on the firm's careers page, palmtreellc.com, or you'll find the link in this episode's show notes. Hey, Strategy Simplified, Japeth, back with you for another episode. Here at Management Consulted, we think it's pretty sad when we get aspiring consultants coming to us and they only know the names of 3 consulting firms. You know who the firms are. That's just a shame. There's amazing firms, hundreds of them out there that do great work, have great people, great cultures, and they pay really well. And these are known as boutique consulting firms. At Management Consulted, we define a boutique firm not as a small firm, but as a firm that's not MBB or Big Four. That's just how we define it. In this episode, you get to hear from 6 amazing boutiques: Charles River Associates, Huron, Palmtree, Porsche Consulting, ProAction International, and Stax. These 6 firms are going to share why you should consider the boutique consulting route instead of the big traditional powers that we all know and love, and we recommend you still pursue them, but also consider the boutique consulting route. Without further ado, let's get into this episode on boutique consulting firms.
So panelists, I'm going to go through just in alphabetical order, in order of the firms, to have you do your introductions. And for this introductory round, we'd love for you to just introduce your firm, yourself, and what you would consider to be the firm's special sauce, their value proposition for clients as well as for candidates. So Charles River Associates, we'd love to start with you.
Great. I'm John Logan. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition for Charles River Associates. We are an international firm that specializes in economic analysis and litigation support with a little bit of management advisory thrown in. So we are often hired by law firms, government agencies, and individual corporations to provide individual, fact-based, objective advice on high-stakes matters. I think what's exciting about our work is you really do, because we are providing litigation support and economic analysis, you really do see the results of the work, whether that be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, in a merger approval or denial, or a new drug coming to market or therapeutic area, or helping a company through to net zero. We're doing all of those things. Our teams work in small groups, and we are also feel a little bit academic. It's kind of a way of applying an economics degree to some real world problems. Just as an aside, we are doing some hiring in very targeted areas, and those are all listed on our website. We also are happy to sponsor international students.
Amazing. John, that's going to be hard to follow. Everybody else has to now say that they're on like a TikTok channel instead of, the Wall Street Journal, but whatever, that's fine. We'll dive into it. Huron, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Paul Abrams. I lead the Global Talent Acquisition team at Huron, and we're a global professional services firm that strong record of success, really solving business problems and helping organizations transform. And we focus in a number of industries, from healthcare and education and research to financial services, energy and utilities, industrials, manufacturing, and we're evolving into the public sector as well. We work with both sound organizations and those going through transformation. And as a result, we're doing everything from strategy, operational improvement work, digital, cultural transformation, and really trying to help our clients transform and build a foundation for long-term growth. And from a day-to-day standpoint, we're working at hospitals, health systems, academic medical centers, universities, research institutions, banks, financial services industry, private equity, and a number of other spaces. We serve roughly 2,000 clients in a year, and from a hiring perspective, we are hiring. I'd say primarily at the experience level. There are our campus program and what we call early talent or on demand is starting mid-year, and we publish those jobs on our website, so feel free to check those out. I would say our secret sauce is really our talent and our culture. So everything is really around the ability to attract, engage, and develop talent. And we do that through intensive coaching. We're a coaching environment. We have promoted our values and leadership principles. And we have a number of programs to support inclusion and diversity efforts that make it just a great environment to work. It's great to be here.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having you. Fun fact, Huron was actually my first info session that I did, or coffee chat, when I was interviewing. And the fact that I didn't know anything about business or Huron or jobs probably wasn't super helpful for me, but it was a really great introduction to the culture of the firm that you're talking about. So I ended up shaving my head and traveling around the world. So it worked out okay. But Huron's a great firm. We're glad to have you here. Garrett, you're up next.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Garrett Adame. I'm a current vice president at Palm Tree. I specifically specialize in our strategic finance and accounting advisory verticals, primarily focused for private equity-backed companies. The way I like to think about Palm Tree structure and our mission is we really like to be a one-stop shop for anything and everything related to private equity. We offer services from pre-transaction to day one support, all the way through post-transaction value creation initiatives, and through exit. Our firm is structured into two parts. We have an investment bank and we have a consulting arm. So I sit in the consulting arm. The consulting arm is divided into what we like to refer to as verticals. We offer a financial due diligence practice, accounting advisory, strategic finance, and data analytics. And to answer your question on what's our special sauce, we really provide deep understanding into the unique challenges that private equity firms face. We offer tailored solutions that can really combine strategic insights and thought leadership, as well as additional arms and legs and horsepower from an operational support level. And that really enables our clients to have the ability to go buy more businesses and kind of focus on the additional thesis for add-on acquisitions or the next platform acquisition. From a hiring perspective, I think we're always hiring. We have an internship in the summer that interests anyone. And I believe in the past, we have also sponsored internationals. So thanks for having me.
Garrett, you didn't even mention that you're in, I've been to the office in California, in LA, and it has one of the best views of an office I've ever been in. So if that's not even your secret sauce, that's pretty good sign, I think. So we're glad to have you. Thanks for joining. Frank, you're up next.
Thank you. So Frank McCleary, partner at Porsche Consulting, leading our financial services and automotive practices. What makes Porsche Consulting special is, as the name says, we are 100% owned by Porsche, the car manufacturer. I would like to say we have a slightly better view. I mean, I haven't been to Palm Tree's offices, but we are at One Porsche Drive in Atlanta. We do have an experience center and an experience track. So if someone can beat that,
this is so unfair. I can't. I mean, how do you even compete with this? This is amazing.
So beyond automotive and financial services, we work in aerospace, consumer goods, life sciences, and we're a management and strategy consulting firm. And I think the other thing that's unique about us is we were born out of the turnaround of Porsche in the mid-90s. I won't go into the long story, but out of that, we started a management consulting firm, and we've been growing ever since. And we're continuing to grow. And the other unique part, if you're familiar with the automotive industry, as part of Porsche being part of the Volkswagen Group, it's a 600,000 person organization. So we get to test all our methods and our methodologies and our approaches within a very large organization, but we still act and work as a small boutique, which is I think unique in the market.
We'll be right back after this quick break.
Have you ever heard a new digital trend and thought to yourself, okay, does this really matter? Asking the right questions helps you cut through the noise and get down to what matters most. I'm Jim Hertzfeld, host of the What If, So What podcast, where we discover what's possible with digital and figure out how to make it real by asking what if, so what, and most importantly, now what? Subscribe and listen, and together we can turn big ideas into tangible actions so you can get shit done.
I'll be messaging you shortly. We'll see you in Atlanta. Okay, let's make this happen. Awesome. So let's see here. Ray, you're up next.
Hey, everybody. Nice to meet you all or meet you. Ray Poirier, Director of Operations at ProAction International. I provide strategic oversight to the implementation of all our consulting services, engagements, and technology. I've had the opportunity to do this line of work from northern communities in the Northwest Territories all the way down to Patagonia near the Antarctic Circle and everywhere in between, right? I'm in Mexico today. I'll be in Brazil next week. So if you like to travel, a great line of work to be into. In terms of our company, ProAction International, we're headquartered in Montreal, Canada, with offices in Paris, Toronto, Miami, and Frankfurt. We celebrate our 20th anniversary this year. And a couple facts and figures about our company. We've coached over 12,000 leaders across the globe. We're a company of about 200 professionals. We're operating in about 19 countries at the moment. A statistic I'm particularly proud of is 73% of all our new business comes from client referrals. So that means they love what we do. They want to recommend us to their friends, families, and colleagues. Okay? We average returns in ROI 3 to 1 on our implementation projects. We guarantee our results, and we have fun doing it. Strong verticals for us at ProAction: aerospace, manufacturing, food and bev, construction, even some heavy industry that we're getting into now. I think the main service offerings, if we had to break them down, it's between leadership development, operational excellence, and probably industry 4.0 or management digitalization. But at the heart of it all, there's always people, right? So at ProAction, we put an intense focus on the impact that a great leader can have on the organization, right? We're typically promoted on our technical abilities, right? You could be the best engineer or architect in the business, but who taught you how to be an impactful, inspiring leader? And I think ProAction does that better than anyone in the business.
Amazing. Wow, so glad to have you. We'll have to exchange travel stories, but Ray, just quick aside, what's the most unlikely place that other people on the call have been that you've been for work?
Oh, geez, most unlikely. No, it's got to be. I think Patagonia was an odd one for me, right? To go from oil and gas.
Business development in Patagonia, you got to do it, right?
Right, that's amazing, and even just the security and stuff as you go into it, right? They're not looking for arms or other things that are dangerous. Like they're looking for plants, looking for do you have a bag of peanuts with you? It's just such a protected area down there. Patagonia was a trip for sure. I recommend it to everybody on the call for a visit at least.
Thank you. So glad to have you. Last but not least, Stax and Arnav. Looking forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Hey, everybody. This is Arnav. I'm a senior manager at Stax, based in the New York office, but calling in from London today. A little bit about Stax. Stax mostly focuses on the private equity space, so that's where we make our bread. We do work across the deal continuum. So before a sponsor has an asset or even a sector in mind, we'll come in to devise sector strategies, target selection, all the way through buy-side due diligence, help them close. There'll be value creation work along the way, all the way through exit. So we like to be partners to sponsors through the holding period and before and after too. We have offices in Boston, Chicago, London, New York, and also in Colombo, Sri Lanka. So, the really cool part about working at Stax is there's so much global mobility to move around offices, even on short-term bases, to get exposure to colleagues from different parts of the world, and we encourage it. We think we grow from it and our colleagues grow from it. So it's important to us, and it's a pretty exciting part of working here, besides all the incredible people you get to work with. We are hiring, so we are hiring across all levels and offices. You can keep an eye on our website and LinkedIn too, I believe, to see all of the openings, and we'll be excited to speak to you if you do. And we do sponsor international students, so that's good news.
Such good news. Colombo, Sri Lanka. Is this like, you got to tell me the story of that one. I feel like that's the unique fun fact.
That they've been a part of Stax's history from when it was a really teeny tiny shop. There were MDs who were from there who moved back and set up base there, and it's become it serves a dual purpose. It is part of our support office, but they run autonomous projects too. So it's really interesting, and it's a beautiful place to visit if you can.
I have to say that visiting the Stax New York office is the first time, I don't know if it'll be the last, but it was the first time I'd met a partner who rollerblades to work. Was
again.
Exactly. It was a very cool experience. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're really excited now. I'm going to dive into the moderator curated questions. And for everyone who's listening to the call, just so y'all know, we are really focused on these questions and making sure that everybody has a little bit of a chance to weigh in, but not all the panelists will weigh in. So I'm going to go through the different questions. At the end, panelists, if there's one thing that you really felt like you wanted to share about, but you didn't get a chance to, I'll give you an opportunity to do that. So we'll kick off with the first question. First of all, there are hundreds of consulting firms out there. And one of the challenges for job seekers is to try to identify where they fit. So can you share one piece of advice or a framework to help an aspiring consultant identify where they fit? If you also want to share your personal story of how you found your firm, that'd be great. So Paul, at Huron, if we could start with that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think my answer is it's not unique. I think it really comes down to kind of soul searching on what type of firm do you think you're looking for? Is it a larger organization or a smaller? And, just with the range of representation on this call where we've got firms that are fairly smaller and, Huron has 6,500 employees, yet we consider ourselves kind of the Goldilocks. We're not too big, we're not too small, we're just right. And so I think part of it just, trying to do some soul searching on what you think environment would work for you. And if you're not sure, talk to your friends, people in consulting, read about it, interact with folks off of LinkedIn and build relationships, and you probably get a sense of what feels right for you.
Paul, how'd you find your way to Huron? Just out of curiosity.
I'd known about Huron in Chicago for, I've always been in the recruiting space in Chicago, and Huron's a company I was just tracking, and I got pinged by an executive recruiter that said, hey, they're looking for someone to run recruiting, and so that's how I got introduced. But I'd actually, when we started, we were basically a disputes and investigation and restructuring firm and didn't know much about what we did. And once I heard the story, I was sold and been here for 13 years.
Amazing. How about you, John? Charles River.
Yeah, I would say similar to Paul. My answer is really know and discover what you're good at and what you're passionate about. And then also do the research on the firms so that you can target a company that's in your niche or that's in your area of expertise that you want to develop. Because if you match what we do, we're more likely to find a match with you, right? We are probably not unique on this panel, but we are a firm that wants you to come and stay. And so the more passion you have for what you're doing, the better you're going to fit long term.
Love that. Thank you. Just similar but different question I'll ask now to Palm Tree, to Garrett, and to Arnav at Stax. Having worked at MBB or the Big Four, can you highlight one way that your boutiques are different from the big consultancies, and also one specific reason why you pivoted over? Garrett, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I transitioned from PricewaterhouseCoopers. I started in audit. And one significant difference that I noticed is the level of hands-on experience you're really going to get, and the responsibilities that are expected from you, at least at Palm Tree, and I'm sure the other boutiques on the call can agree. But you're really going to be thrown into the fire. You're playing a much more critical role for the team. You're given a lot of exposure to C-suite level and interactions earlier on in your career than I think you probably would at one of the more larger established firms. This level of involvement really helps your professional growth. All that you're going to do is get a unique opportunity. You're going to have more tangible experience. You're going to have your own path and story to tell. And that really is a big differentiator for me, and kind of why I jumped and found Palm Tree. That led that pivot. And then, sorry, was there a second part to that question that I missed?
No, not at all. But I have a second part, if I can just add one on. Garrett, how did you also decide that it was the right time to move? I think that's maybe another sub question that people have.
Yeah, and that's tough. I mean, you're going to find a point where you think at least for me, you're going to find a point where you think you're excelling faster than your peers probably. And you may not be getting the recognition that you think you probably deserve. And so you kind of want to go somewhere where those guardrails to move up to the next level are a little bit more blurred, and you kind of have that opportunity to shine and push through and kind of get that, maybe an early promotion or more recognition or whatever that looks like. But that's kind of when I found myself. I didn't feel like I was learning as much as I wanted to, or as much as I thought I was capable of.
Love that. Arnav, how about you? How'd you make the move, and why should other people think about it?
I was listening to Garrett and reflecting on my own past few years. I worked at Strategy and coming straight out of business school in New York, in the New York office. And I had the opportunity to do the same exact job as Strategy and. So I'm still doing the same thing I did there. So I can isolate the variable quite more easily between boutiques and the larger firms. My experience, at least at Strategy and, was a positive one. But it had a few things I would have ideally liked to tweak. I found that despite all of the advantages of resources that big firms do, the other side of the coin is that you have limited room to operate, because it's a beaten path and they want you to follow the beaten path because it's a successful operation. Whereas I wanted to try new things all the time, and I wanted to innovate. And the room for innovation in a well-constructed big team is more limited. And the other thing that was top of mind for me is I wanted to accelerate my career. Whereas at big firms, it's pretty well defined. You spend 2 years in role A and 3 years in role B, and maybe there's some variances at the margin, but not very many. Whereas I felt like if I made the pivot to a smaller firm where you can take the reins more freely, I'd be able to do that. And those were my primary motivators in coming to Stacks. And Stacks, because I was doing the same job, I was aware of Stacks, and it popped on my radar, and I hopped over.
Hey, Strategy Simplified, it's Japheth here, and I'm quickly popping in to tell you about Strategy Sprint. Strategy Sprint is a week-long virtual consulting project that allows you to add US-based work experience to your resume. So you work in a small team, you get mentored by a former McKinsey, Bain, or BCG consultant, and you solve a strategic growth issue for a real-world client. So that means you gain incredible skills and experience that looks amazing on your resume. We are running several sprint projects throughout this year. Check out the dates and the link to register at the link in this episode's show notes. We look forward to welcoming you to a future Strategy Sprint project.
Let's move on to the next question. So let's just talk about advantages of boutique firms. We talked about why people made the leap over. Proaction, Ray, I'll let you do this one first. So would you say 2 key advantages of working for a boutique firm? And you can compare and contrast that not just with other consulting firms, but with anywhere else.
Sure, you bet. First, let me go back. I know I forgot to mention that ProAction International is also hiring in our European, Canadian, and US divisions. So please check out our webpage.
Like that PSA, Ray. Thanks for bringing that in. Yeah.
Leading into, advantages of boutique consulting. I mean, it's the path I chose exiting my executive MBA. Couldn't have been happier with the decision, right? In terms of advantages, I'll echo our previous speaker's statements. It boils down to kind of exposure, accountability, probably creativity. Man, you can go from hero to zero real quick. in this line of work, right? But you're kind of bulletproof, like Teflon or something, right? After a couple of years in it, yeah, you feel like you can do anything. So
Can you
certainly,
also go from 0 to hero, or only from hero to 0?
it goes both ways. It's hopefully more hero days than 0. But no, it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't change it for anything. Obviously, love consulting. It's real life hands-on MBA. I think if you're creative and brave, driven, willing to take on the challenges. In our industry, right, you get to work with frontline supervisors in manufacturing, right? Someone that might have been there their whole life, in a bottling facility, perhaps. You also get exposure up to the C-suite, right? So from some junior managers who are more technical, right, and don't have the managerial maturity maybe for leadership, to the C-suite and some of the smartest individuals I've met. So tons of advantage to it. It was a great career path for me. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Love it. Portia, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit is echoing, previous comments, but the benefit that I've had, at least in my 12 years at Portia Consulting, is you get to do across a lot of different industries, and you get to work across a lot of different service offerings or functions or domains, where you don't end up as a dot in a matrix of a service offering in an industry that you may end up with in a larger firm. I mean, I remember I was doing a review, and I had done planes, trains, and automobiles in completely different industries and completely different functional areas, product development in aerospace, and cost out in manufacturing and automotive in 1 year across 3 different clients. And so that's what I found with a lot of with being in a boutique, and the main difference. The other thing is being smaller, and it's a flatter organization, so you have access to senior leaders within the organization, senior partners, and it's more, I feel like it's more approachable from an organizational perspective. And just to sneak in a third, which just a highlight from what has been previously said.
So consulting of you, Frank. There's got to be 3 bullet points, huh?
All our team is frontline customer facing, so it can be tough when you're an associate coming in, but that's sort of trial by fire. You learn quickly, and you get to accelerate relatively fast and accelerate your career.
We'll be right back after this quick break.
Hey, you. Yeah, you listening. Do you like personal finance or real estate? Are you itching to build wealth and create a better life for yourself or your family? Then you need to come check out the Life, Money, and More podcast with real estate agent, YouTuber, and actor Sage Weiss. This isn't your average finance show. We dive deep and do not sugarcoat topics around money and life. The Life, Money, and More podcast releases 2 episodes a week just for you, because we're all about helping you win in this crazy world we live in. Come join the thousands of listeners on the Life, Money, and More podcast.
I love it. Arnav, I had you down for this one. I know you've already offered a few suggestions. Anything else that you want to contribute for this?
No, I think Frank covers it pretty well. I think one of the key advantages is the access to leadership piece cannot be overstated, because sometimes when you're working in a pretty vertical organization, you're so many layers away from the leaders. It's hard to have visibility into what the future of your career might look like. And understanding that sooner is a major advantage as you plan out your professional journey. So a flatter organization is always better for your own professional fulfillment long term, in my view. And also just having visibility into what goes to build a practice, what goes into building a firm. You may or may not be a consultant in the long term. Many people aren't, but knowing how to build a business is a very transferable skill set.
Powerful. Well, speaking of skills, let's move on to the next question. What are the key skills consultants build, right? I don't know about you guys, but I definitely wasn't good on the skill side before consulting, and consulting was a big skill building opportunity for me. So can you just talk specifically about how, what key skills and how through training and on-the-job experience are built at your firm? So John, we'll go to you first for this one.
Sure. Yeah. I think that core competencies of consultants are sort of really strong analysis skills, the ability to read a room and to have a conversation that matters with the people in the room. Strong written communication, obviously project management, budget management, team leadership, those kind of skills. At Charles River, we've got a range of things, and I think all the firms do have a range of offerings, but one of our key things is what we call our core series, which is a series of development programs that are timed to your progress in your career path, so that right before we start expecting it of you on the job, we're going to put you into some training that gets you those skills about how to be a trusted advisor, how to build a business, how to have the conversations, what does good public communication look like. And we also do that obviously on the job. You're getting coached, you're getting advice from seniors in the firm, as well as some external linkages with kind of on-demand training that you can participate in.
I love it. Paul, Huron, what kind of key skills are your consultants building?
Yeah, first of all, from a Huron perspective, our capabilities or services are so broad that a lot of it might depend on what side of the business you go into, whether you go into one of our industry groups or one of our what we call capabilities or service lines. And but the core competencies I think all of us provide are around like client service, and client service can include everything from communication skills, critical thinking skills, adaptability, self-awareness, and then obviously technical or functional skills depending on what group you're going into. And then the other thing that I think we definitely are focus on is just a continuous learning mindset, and we're attracted to candidates that really have that. And the first few years can be difficult, so we're looking for individuals that do well being uncomfortable and kind of thrive on that. And so the learning is based on trying to create those core competencies that are critical not only in consulting, but I think just critical as you mature your career.
So good. Thanks. Last one is proaction. What about y'all? What are some of the key skills that your people build?
Oh, goodness. And it really depends on which project you're assigned to first. And it's such a good training ground. I mean, from the mom and pop chicken shops up to the Fortune 500s, it can be a very different experience, right? We'll draw on different skill sets. But leadership, number one, I think confidence, your persuasive abilities, effective communication, your ability to understand and see opportunities where others don't, right? And then also be realistic in what's recoverable in those opportunities, right? And then it's about consensus building, bringing people to the table and getting your ideas implemented, right? At the end of the day.
They sound like soft skills, but there's nothing soft about those, right?
No, it's such a mix. You got to have the technical background and the data analytics to back it up if you want to get anything moving.
That's exactly right. Love it. Well, let's move into a Mythbuster question. We have a few more of these that the other folks asked. So there is a myth, or is it? We're kind of curious what y'all think about this one, that boutiques don't offer the types of training available at larger firms. So can you talk specifically to not just the skills, but the training programs that you offer? Frank at Porsche and Garrett for Palm Tree.
Sure. So we cater our training specifically to the individual's needs, because some of it is driven by project demand and project need. What we strongly feel is that we don't want to just blanket train individuals across things that aren't going to be useful for them or aren't going to be useful for executing on a project. So really catering to the individual's training needs and what they need, and offering both internal trainings and external trainings. So partnering with outside organizations. We're in Atlanta. We partner with Georgia Tech and Emory to provide additional training where needed. And that can range anything from functional related topics like data analytics, sustainability, circular economy, whatever it may be that's like, say, topic related, or will fundamental principles around service offerings that we provide that are done internally through through myself as a partner or other colleagues that are actually doing it. And beyond that, we also typically on a annual basis, we have a international training week at some of our offices in Germany, and we'll, for a select cohort of individuals, we'll send them over for training to participate and be exposed to the larger organization to just, again, give, a sense of, because again, we're a car company that's based out of Germany. You sort of have to, drink the Kool-Aid, and it helps when you're there and you see how it's done. So
Frank, complete aside story. When I went to Germany the first time with my husband, we rented a car that was like the smallest, least powerful car on the road. And he's made me promise that I go back and drive a Porsche, a Ferrari, something on the road that actually takes advantage of the German roads.
There's plenty of micro cars in Europe that you never want to ever get into.
Yep, we got one of those. That's what we got. So,
Yeah.
Garrett, what about you? Is it a myth, this type of training? Is there something different or better? Is it you've done both, right? So tell us a little bit about your perspective here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear from Frank that hopefully it is a myth, and Palm Tree is not the only boutique consulting firm out there that cares about our professional development of our team members. Yeah, I would definitely say that is a myth. At Palm Tree, we have our chief talent officer, who's one of our original co-founders. He's switched from client work to now focusing on internal development. So we have focused and transitioned a lot into how do we give our team members the right professional development? What do they need? So we have a lot of internal workshops. We do external certifications. A lot of our team members have CPAs, so they need to do CPE trainings. And so we offer a lot of those through third parties to make sure that their CPA certifications are staying up to date. And then a lot of on-the-job learning, right? Like, we're going to be thrown into these fires, like I said, and like, you're probably not going to do the same thing twice. So you're going to be asked to kind of figure this out while you're going through it. And so one of our core values that I love is called Stay Frosty. And essentially what that means is, stay on your toes, roll with the punches. Like, we're not going to have the perfect answer. We're not going to have the perfect training. Like, you're going to have to stay frosty and figure it out as you go. We also have a mentorship program at Palm Tree, which I know also existed at PwC. I would say a little bit of a nuance or a difference there is at PwC, and I think one of the other panelists was talking about it, but at PwC, it's a very, at all the Big Four, it's a very structured, streamlined ladder. Most people come from similar backgrounds, and at Palm Tree, everyone's kind of taken a different path to get to where we are. Most people, I very rarely meet someone at Palm Tree that has done the exact same thing as me. So through our mentorship program, I'm getting a diverse mindset. I'm able to ask questions of, hey, how would you approach this? Because here's how I would, and maybe the way I'm doing it's not the best. So I think the diverse mindset is a big one. Another thing that we do that I find really valuable is we do lunch and learn. So once a month, every other week, we try to take a hot topic that we're finding throughout a lot of our projects, and we present it to the entire firm. Because again, odds are someone else is going to interface that, someone else is going to have the same problem. And so here's an example of kind of what we did on this project and how, in case you find it in the future, this is how we approach the situation.
I love that. What a unique approach. Thanks. Appreciate that insight. Panelists, any of those questions before we move on to the audience questions that you wanted to weigh in on, or just have a final thought about before we move on to the next set of questions?
I just had one comment. You're really trying to find like stickiness of like what's going to keep you and keep you engaged in the organization. And I think the smaller organizations, that was called out in a couple scenarios about how you really learn quickly and your divisions aren't quite there. Your job might be broader than what normally be in these larger organizations. And, so the advantage of having like a front row seat to see not only how your internal leaders lead and get things done, but the view of sitting in front of senior leaders within your clients and that access is something that's huge. And it really accelerates, I think, your learning. And so we're all hiring bright, smart people, but you have the opportunity to really work with other talented people that have made it in their careers is, a huge advantage that is why I think people come to our teams.
Paul, I think that all of you have emphasized something that I just want to call out for our audience right now, which is the desire for longevity. at the firms. And I definitely think that Big Four, like my experience at MBB, there was this general sense that like if you want to stay, stay, but if not, like get out, right? And a lot of our training was about the competence of the on-the-job performance, not the retention inside the organization. I was really struck by how most of you mentioned something about really wanting to help people develop for the long term inside your orgs, and I think that's a notable insight that everybody should pay attention to. If you didn't recognize it, it's there. Let's move now on to the audience questions. Sorry, did I miss somebody? John, did you want to say something?
Jenny, yeah, I think that goes to the core of consulting though, right? Like at its core, consulting is an expertise-based business. And so if you're getting into it to try a little bit of everything and not become an expert in anything, that's a short-term proposition. And particularly with ours, where we are a little bit more focused, we want those people to come, develop expertise, stay, grow, help grow the firm in addition. And so, and it's really hard to replace that expertise when it walks out the door, right? Because it's like everyone said, it's not a cookie cutter. And so it is a very unique piece that leaves when someone leaves us.
Powerful. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's talk a little bit about industry. I think this is one of the questions. The general sense is pretty doom and gloom. This is every time the Wall Street Journal calls me, they're like, how terrible is it in consulting, right? They don't even want to talk about anything good that's happening, right? Are there just like firms going out of business left and right? Like they don't want to talk about anything else. So I need y'all to tell us the real story. What growth areas, specific industries or specific practice areas are your firms seeing right now? And again, this is just popcorn. So if you have something to contribute, jump in. If not, we'll move on.
From our side, we've seen still strong growth in industrial goods and heavy equipment manufacturing, and because they have longer life cycles and longer cycles that aren't being impacted as much. It has definitely shifted to a cost out kind of work. A lot of the growth strat work that we used to do or we typically do is not there, and even strategy work is sort of slowed a little bit. It's more focusing on cost, and that we're seeing across a lot of the industries that we support is really just a cost focus. So you just have to. I mean, consulting is sometimes a game of the macro cycles of the economics and finding where those pockets are and pushing in.
Anybody else?
Yeah, but
We're starting to see some mergers and antitrust work come up. We're seeing some activity in energy and energy transition still. And then we've got a cyber incident response group that is also, as you can imagine, quite busy.
Cyber incident response. That's the most niche of the niches that I've heard so far. I love it. When we were talking about expertise, it all makes sense now, right? Yeah, that's great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have one more to add that's kind of fun because I see it in the chat. So AI is kind of blowing up right now, and there's a lot of areas in the economy and industries that are being impacted by that I think people are getting ready for, whether it's data centers, infrastructure. I think people are prepping for what this is about to do. And so being ready for that and like being able to leverage AI, like sounds like some of the people on the Zoom call are already doing by helping take notes, is going to impact, I think, everyone.
Yeah, from a Huron perspective, we've 70% of our business is within healthcare and the education and research market, and those industries are going through challenging times. So we're relevant in where some of our competitors have had challenges. That business said, we came off one of our best years ever. And then the fact that we've got a lot of big digital cloud-based solutions that we can introduce into our core industries has kept us busy. And I think there's a lot of wait and see, but I think we're in a unique year. We've got elections, issues with the interest rates, and everyone is kind of pausing a bit. But I think that things are gonna pick up as we go through the year, and at least that's what we're hearing.
I can chime in with what we're seeing at Stack. We're pretty much exclusively exposed to the private equity market, which, if you read the press, was hammered by the interest rate trajectory. Mostly because the spread in valuations got too big between buyers and sellers. We see that converging now. So that's helping transaction volumes pick up. And that's basically the tailwind for our business.
Love it. Next question. We've talked a lot about this expertise and longevity, but do boutiques also make sense to stop in? Are y'all open to that? Is it a place where some people could come and build a few years of experience? You can say no or yes, but I'm just curious on what your perspective is.
We prefer for you to come and stay. I mean, but we do have individuals that have come and left after, 3 years and got a taste of the life and got SkyMile status or United, 1K or whatever it is, and then moved on. At the end of the day, it's, I think you make consulting what you want of it. And that's what I think a boutique offers is if you find the right pairing, there's a lot of opportunity to make it, as much as you want it to be or not be. And I think that's the unique advantage from larger firms that are more structured, more limited in your ability and room to operate. It's very much structured in how you're going to do it and what you're going to get out of it.
One more? Anybody else?
I think any of us would welcome new talent into the firm because it represents an injection of sort of new thinking and that new perspective from education. It needs to be tempered with the experience that exists at the firm, but that's why we match people up and why we're matched on projects and do the mentoring.
Love it. Well, Frank, you mentioned Delta Sky Miles, right? Delta Diamond, United 1K. How much travel is required at your firms, y'all?
Post-COVID, I think it's more balanced because at least a lot of our clients have adopted technology. Pre-COVID, I still had clients that use Skype, and if you ever try to do a video conference on Skype, it's not possible. So
true.
I mean, it did help change the delivery model and get, at least for us, get us in a mindset that where I look at travel for our teams and our projects is purpose-driven travel. There's a purpose that we're going to go see a client, we're going to drive specific actions, and we're going to, we're not just going to sit in an office, in a hotel, in a cubicle for a week and then come back.
We're taking the approach that we're not like publishing how much travel you're going to have to do because I think it's really dependent on the engagements you're on. So we want folks coming into the firm that are willing to travel, up to 85% if necessary. But the reality is that COVID proved that we really don't have to be on site all the time. But there are scenarios where the client's asking us to be on site. So you just try to understand how flexible a candidate is and then determine, can you make it work based on their skill set, the type of work we're doing, and just be, really transparent about things can change and, you want people as flexible as possible.
Yeah, that was well said, Paul. I would agree with that. It's project specific, engagement specific, company specific. Post-COVID, definitely less, but I think half of this panel said we're all in different places than where we live right now. So that kind of speaks for itself too.
Right.
I love it. Great. I think we covered that one. That was awesome. And then the last one is just about a project that excited you most the past quarter. Now, some of you are more client facing and others are kind of more in, specifically in talent acquisition. But if one or two of you could just weigh in so people can get a little bit of color. You did a broad strokes. Let's just go a little deeper on one specific project before we close out.
I'm happy to share. It's pretty hard to keep it really high level, but I could dive into one that I just did recently. So they were a construction company, family owned, didn't have a lot of process and structure. Private equity just purchased, a lot of different requirements and changes and expectations that come with that. We kind of got parachuted in there to really stand up their accounting and finance function and set up an office of CFO. We had to redesign kind of their org structure a little bit, get them up on their feet. They have lender reporting requirements now, deadlines that need to be met, no ifs, ands, or buts. So really working hand in hand with the business and then understanding like what is the best process as opposed to just shoving a square through a circle and saying, here you go, this is like what best practice looks like and this is what you got to do. It's really like understanding how they work, what can we do to help. And it was really fun engagement. I think everyone around the board like appreciated it. You really get integrated with the C-suite. You know, a lot of lunches and dinners, you get really close. It's really fun. I think that's a good explanation of one of my favorite projects this year.
Amazing. Thanks, Garrett. One more of those.
I can go. I just recently wrapped up a project where we were not working for an investor, but working for the company, positioning it for sale, which, as you can imagine, this is not the best time to be selling a business, but you know, when you need liquidity, you do. So it was really interesting to work with the management team and really figure out, explore all of the growth pathways, position it in an investor and a lender-friendly way so that they can achieve the maximum valuation possible, but also think about what they could execute against over the next few years. So it was kind of a blend between thinking about how to use their assets for growth, but also think about a potential transaction, and the blend of the two made it interesting.
Amazing. Love it. Well, I can't believe it because I've had a lot of fun, but we've got to move to closing questions now. And this is pretty simple. Everybody would love a piece of advice, a fun piece of advice for their careers, a piece of advice as they're thinking about what to do next, or a piece of advice as they're looking at your firm, as well as feel free to color in anything that you didn't get to say so far. So we'll do this in the reverse to the way that we did the initial intro. And so let's start. I think, Arnav, I think you're first with stats.
Sure. Since the theme of this was really about boutiques, the one point I don't think has been touched on I'd like to bring up is that there's a ton of people out there who will go into MBB to borrow the brand for a couple of years and move on with the stamp of credibility to do whatever they really wanted to do. That is typically not what people come into boutiques for. What boutiques offer you the chance is to build your own brand rather than borrow an organizational brand. And that takes time, effort, focus. So you need to come in with that clarity of mindset that it's going to take time, effort, and focus to build that, but you leave with something personal and not something borrowed.
It's powerful. Thanks. Thanks for joining. Proaction, Ray.
I think culture fit is important. Right. I knew coming into this line of work, I didn't want to do just number crunching in a back office. Coming into the MBA, look for culture fit. Ask to speak with some of the people that are currently in the firm at the level you're applying for. What's their experience, right? At Proaction, we'd be happy and open to, hear from our consultants, analysts, or project managers. What is a day in the life like? Right? Is it a match for your current skill set, your ambitions, what you want to learn? You have to love what you do to do it well, right? If you don't enjoy your work, you're going to fail. You're going to fail out quick. So culture fit and a match for the skill set, I think, are key.
Love it. Thank you. Frank, Portia.
I think you have to have a willingness to learn and just a strong intellectual curiosity that drives to what Ray was just mentioning, because consulting is not easy. It's not an easy career. There are long hours, there's travel, as we discussed earlier, and having that just curiosity of what you're going after, what you're trying to solve, because oftentimes in a boutique, not everything is solved for. Not everything is just a cookie cutter, same approach, same methodology, same every single time. And so you have to be willing to take a problem, take a situation, unpack it, try and figure it out and solve for it. And that's what drove me and it keeps me doing what I do. And it gets those sometimes long days. And I think that's what I look for in candidates, and what I ask them is, what drives you to learn more? What drives you to, what scratches that itch? And I think that's critical.
Love it. Thank you. Garrett, Palm Tree.
Yeah, I think you should consider the path that we've all taken. If you're kind of an entrepreneurial mindset, a self-starter, you don't expect things to be handed to you. You're going to kind of have to work for it. I think Arnav at Stacks hit it right. Like, you're going to build your own brand. You're going to build a dynamic and rewarding career path. You're going to have to be able to share your story. Not a lot of people are going to be, when they pick up your resume and they see a Big Four logo on your resume, they know who you are. They know what you've done. But if they see one of the smaller boutique consulting firms, you're going to have to explain a little bit more, because odds are everyone at that boutique consulting firm probably didn't do the same thing you did. So you need to be able to tell your story. So you're going to need to be a strong communicator. So if you're that type of person, I think boutique consulting is definitely for you.
Love it. Thanks. Paul, here on.
Yeah, I think a lot of good comments. I would agree with the fact that you really want self-starters and people that are really, willing to lean in and to work through uncomfortable situations is, critical. And you're going to figure out pretty quickly whether or not it's for you or not. But I can tell you that anytime you invest in this type of environment, if you're a high performer, it's going to benefit you in the long run. And if you look at people who have received, gotten success in their career, it's typically what they did early on to build that foundational stuff that gave them the experience, the confidence to navigate anything. And that's the benefit I think you get from spending some time in a boutique. And then you determine if you want to do it in the long term or not, but it would be a worthwhile investment.
Love it. Thanks. Last but not least, John with Charles.
Yeah, I think that part of what makes a person successful at a boutique consulting firm is the passion, but also sort of the independence. You are not considered and not a number, a cookie cutter, right? Everybody's going to have their own career, and we're going to give you a framework. We're not going to give you a path. You kind of have to create your own path. And that's really exciting for a lot of people, because you kind of get to customize it. For people who are looking for something that's more structured, it's going to be harder to find here, particularly with smaller firms, because that's not the way that we're set up. We want to kind of give everyone their own push, and then they create from it what they will.
I love it. Well, thank you all. We've reached the top of the hour. What a great conversation. I feel inspired, motivated, challenged. I feel like I learned a lot about different industries that I hadn't thought about in a while. And I'm just really grateful that you took the time to share your story and share with our folks today. Everyone who's been here for the panel, thanks again for joining. We've got a QR code on the page where you can scan to connect both with us as well as with today's presenters. And again, just a reminder, if you want support ongoing, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to reach me. I do 1-minute office hours on Thursdays. So any question that fits within a minute, ask it. I'll be happy to answer. But other than that, if you want to book a call with someone on our team or get first access to Strategy Sprint, make sure you take care of that. And we will look forward to seeing you hopefully inside the community or on a future call. Thanks again, panelists. Really appreciated having you.
After listening to these 6 incredible panelists, there's a high chance you probably added these 6 firms to your list of target firms for consulting. So, link in the show notes to connect with firms and to see the careers page to see open roles. They're all hiring, and they'd love to meet you. If you'd like some expert help in your recruiting journey, consider our Black Belt program. You get expert MBB coaching, you get resume edits, you get digital prep resources, and so much more. The link in the show notes to learn more about Black Belt. Thank you for tuning in to Strategy Simplified. We'll catch you on another episode soon.